Hi, everybody. Welcome to Small Steps, Big Life, where I, Nathan Aswell, speak to people who are leading fantastic big lives, and we get them to speak about their journeys and the small steps they have taken to get to where they presently are and beyond. And as I said, I'm Nathan Aswell. I'm based in White Rock, which is about 45 minutes south of Vancouver, Canada. And today it is my extreme pleasure to have live from San Diego, Kathy Sparrow. Yay, Kathy. Woo!
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's the same time zone. That's really cool to be having a conversation with somebody in the same time zone.
Yes, that's good. Although we love people in all time zones, but yes.
I know. It's unusual, though, because we have global audiences. Yes. So we didn't have to use our mental faculties to figure out the math.
So when you and I were speaking last week, you reminded me that we had actually shared a week together with Jack Canfield and 500 of his closest friends.
That's right.
In 2012, the Breakthrough to Success training. It was the only year that I was there doing music with Jana. How many years were you part of that experience with Jack?
Ooh, let's see. I started training with him in 2010. I think that was my first, I did a one-day event and then did Breakthrough to Success. Mm-hmm. And then I did Advanced, which was in the fall. So Breakthrough to Success was August. Then I did the fall. And then I started in the Train the Trainer program. Mm-hmm. So I did that through 2011. And then 2012, I took my son to BTS. That was my gift to him. And it was cool to watch him make his goal. I mean, write him down. And then 6 months later, he called me when I was assisting Jack. I became part of Jack's assisting team, and my son called me and said, "Hey, guess what? I got the job that I wanted." So yeah, it was really cool. So I stayed with Jack on his assisting team right up until about 2014, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I just said, I'm going to start putting some more time into my own business. It's great to be around that energy. I miss my friends. I have lots of friends from around the world through that community. And it was a good experience. It is a good experience. And now it's meeting other people and reconnecting.
Yep.
So.
And moving on. Yeah. So what shall we are celebrating Kathy Sparrow, the writer, today, and we're going to move deeply into that and some interesting fingers connected to that. So before we get into Kathy Sparrow as writer, what would you like people to know about Kathy Sparrow as person?
Oh, Kathy Sparrow as a person. I like to model. That's really, I'm here to inspire people as a role model. Writing is my passion. Mm-hmm. But it really doesn't matter what your passion is. I model going after that. Mm-hmm. I've had a very interesting life, mm-hmm. a writable life, and I still write about it. Yeah. I laugh because I saw a little quote on Pinterest the other day. It said something about, "I'm a writer, so be careful. If you're in my life, you're going to be written about." And it's true. I do write about everybody that comes into my life. Yeah. I'm a fly fisher. I had a fly fishing lodge with my ex-husband. Well, he was married. I was married at the time, but in South Texas, deep South Texas. It's where I learned how to fly fish on salt water. Beautiful estuary. And that's really, and this is the other tie here, the place where I embraced nature as my teacher. Hmm. And I wrote On the Mother Lagoon, Fly Fishing in the Spiritual Journey, where I likened learning how to fly fish as a spiritual journey, as a spiritual practice. I mean, it took every ounce of, persistence and patience and surrender and just all of it all wrapped up into one. And then the thread is continued, and nature feeds me. Mm-hmm. In fact, a friend just texted me a little picture, and it was showed a cowboy sitting around a campfire. Nature, I'm having a meeting with my therapist. And I went, oh, that's funny, because really, that's where I go for my inspiration and my clarity. Sometimes that'll lead, and nature always figures in my books too, right, as a teacher.
So let's go back. Let's hear about your beginning as a writer. What what stirred in you to write? Tell us about how that. I love hearing about how people's journeys start.
It started probably when I was about 8 years old, spending my summers in a hammock reading Margaret Henry's Chincoteague Pony series. And just, there it is, horses in nature. And I just thought about that, and really then something stirred inside of me and said, I want to be a writer. I want to write stories. That people around me didn't become writers. We were in a very blue collar family, and, you became a secretary or a teacher, and that was it, not the teaching, because I do teach now, but it was, stay within, you don't go off and do crazy things like write. But when I went to high school at the time, we'd have this meeting with the guidance counselor, and my mother came along, and he's Mr. Bowman. I made Mr. Bowman famous because I talk about him all the time. When he asked me what I wanted to do, with my life, and I said, I want to be a writer and I'm interested in the theater. And he big man, bald head, took his glasses off and slid them down his nose. And he says, Kathy, you'll never be a writer. Never even touched the theater. I just was like crushed. And my mother never said anything at the time. I was like, nobody, I'm out here all alone. Luckily, and I went into a business program, learned how to type and do shorthand. It dates me a little bit, but that's what was happening at the time. We didn't have computers. And luckily, though, that inner yearning to write never went away. I continued to journal. I remember doing a 17 magazine contest, giving my father the envelope and asking him to mail it. I hope he did. I don't know whether he did or not, but I trusted that he did. And then it was about, I went through a business, 2 years of business in community college, and then went back to school for liberal arts. By this time, I got married young. I mean, besides being a writer, I wanted a family and a nice normal life. And well, I don't know what normal is, but I had 2 great kids, and I went back to school, and I was working part-time. And luckily, though, I had a professor who saw my talent as a writer. She said, you need to be doing more of this. And so she encouraged me. And then I just kept writing. I mean, I would just write anything. And the first real break I had was, at one point in my life, I was scared of heights. And I went hiking with my kids and their aunt and uncle. I'm East Coast at the time, grew up in upstate New York. And there's this, in the Massachusetts Berkshires, there's Monument Mountain. Not a big mountain at all. I do a lot more higher peaks now. And we were climbing to the top, and it was like, oh my God, this ledge. I was afraid of looking down. And I just wrote about how I got over that fear and finally got to the edge and enjoyed watching the birds soar below me. And I took that piece, and at the time I was working for a congressman, and I love this little rebel that I am. I took the government issued Selectric typewriter home every Wednesday because that was my day off. And I wrote that piece, and then we didn't have email yet. And I put that piece of writing in the mail to a local arts paper. It was basically lots of interviews with artists and dancers and community kind of based things. And Lael Locke, the editor, called me about a week later, and she said, I can't use that piece, but I want you to write for me.
Wow.
It was like, for the next 6 years, and I only stopped because I moved away. For the next 6 years, I wrote at least one monthly piece. And it was always a personality profile. I got to interview people living their passions, writers and dancers and musicians. And it was just really cool. And one of those interviews, Kermit Love. And he is I think he's passed now, but creator of Spalupicus and Oscar the Grouch. And I'm sitting in his upstate New York farmhouse. We're sipping tea. It's a cold Sunday afternoon, and it's raining. and we're having this conversation. Then he stops and he says to me, "You ever thought of acting?" And it was like, oh my gosh, here I am writing, and here's this man acknowledging that I have some. So I don't act, but I do speak. So that's it was kind of nice affirmation. Where did I go from there? I actually became an editor of a similar paper after I left New York, went to Connecticut, and started editing. Just kept writing, kept following my passion, following that thread. And it was when I was in Indianapolis that I broke into books. I started working for the company, they don't know it anymore, but the company that published the For Dummies series. Mm-hmm. And, the Microsoft for Dummies and the Wine for Dummies and whatever for Dummies. I did a lot. I was on staff, or one of their main freelancers, and I was the proofreader, but I got to work in publishing. And then I got a ghostwriting gig, and it's just been continual. And when I got to Virginia Beach, people started asking me, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a writer." And they said, "Well, I'd always thought about being a writer." So I started coaching. And that was probably 10 years after I began professionally writing. And then I started coaching.
Mm-hmm. I love listening to how organic the whole process has been. How, because you had the clarity of your calling, that, things just got lined up one after the other. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And I think the trick is to just keep leaning into it. It's Sheryl Sandberg's title of her book, just lean into it. Just take those steps. Follow that the small steps. That's really, there was never any big break. It was following that intuition, honoring my calling, and then acting on it. Yeah. And I think that's where we get in trouble, is when we don't act on it.
Yeah.
And there were times when I didn't act.
Right. So what I was going to say is we all are responsible for where we are on our paths with the help of many people. So let's take a moment to acknowledge people that mentored you, that gave you a leg up. You've mentioned some of them. The name of the first person who said, well, I can't use this piece, but I want you to write for me. And you wrote for 6 years. What was her name again?
Her name's Lael Locke.
Wow.
Yep.
That's the name of a character of a book. Lael Locke. Wow, that's great. Straight out there with Lana Lang, or, Anyway.
Right. She just, I'll forever be grateful for her. I have to acknowledge Mr. Bowman, even though he did support me, he was I have a mentor I've been working with for almost 20 years. I think we figured out it's been over 20 years. A spiritual mentor of sorts, Darla, not of sorts, but she's, walked with me on my journey, Darla Engelman. And I can't, I have to acknowledge her, because she's really with me every step of the way. And, she's always encouraged me to write, and she's been with me through the tough times, my transitions in life, But she was the one that acknowledged Mr. Bowman as like my weight, the weight that I had to use to strengthen my writing muscles, to strengthen the muscles to really step out there and follow my dream, follow my passion. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say my kids too. I remember my daughter one time sending me a note saying, "Oh, I'm going to cry. Mom, writing is your meditation. Maybe if you did more of that and less meditation, you'd be happier." And she's right. I'm the happiest when I'm writing. I just get lost. So that's pretty cool. I think there's a Buddhist term called noble friends or something like that. And there have been a lot of those people in my life. Who and one of the people who was like a second mother to me was my Aunt Veen, and she lived next door. She wasn't a biological aunt, but she was like my second mom, and she believed in me in the way other people never did, and still feel her influence. She gave me the book, The Little Engine That Could. An original 1948 version with the nice slick color pages. Because that's really, really about it. The little engine that could. It's like, I think I can. So she's big. Oh gosh, I know I'll forget people. I don't know. It's like there's my good friends who've been beside me, throughout my journey.
Mm-hmm.
When I've been in heaps on the floor saying I can't do this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing, and then I get back up. My husbands in their own way had two, in their own way, they helped me on my journey. I think anybody that we have in our lives helps us on our journey in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the professors who gave me feedback, encouraged me to keep writing. And then when I began teaching at the university, all those people who supported me in getting, my first university job, that was pretty cool. So I can inspire other young writers.
Yeah. And I think it's wonderful that you're saying all this, because of course it's true. We are influenced by everyone on our path in any which way. And to come back to, that great statement that you made at the beginning, it all factors into your writing. They all come into your writing in some way, shape, or form. So,
yeah.
It's just nice to I just like hearing people acknowledge that, it really is that. It's one thing leading to another, and it's all the people that influence you on the way. It's not this, it's not the skies, the clouds parting and, the voice of God sounding, which I suppose may happen every once in a while to some people, but to most of us, it's one foot in front of the other and God speaking through, a number of different sources all around us every day,
Yeah. And I would say even now, my latest project, Women, Money, and the Inner Male Connection, has been, sometimes when you say yes to projects, they they get you. And I've been a little afraid of this one because it's big. It's big stuff. I'm saying some things that it would be pretty vulnerable about my own journey with money and men. And I've had clients go, come on, I really want to hear more. When is it going to be done? I've even used it as in a research project for my students, using my own work as a model to show them annotated bibliographies and mind mapping and all. And all the women light up and get a little afraid to go, what is she writing about? But the ladies really light up because they get it. They get it. And they keep saying, when is it going to be out? I want it, so it's getting that encouragement even from clients and students saying, come on, we want to see it.
Let's back up a little bit, Kathy. I know that you've written some other books. Just tell us about that. Let's start with the other books and then say a little more about the one that's coming.
Okay. So, one, I want to acknowledge that I've written hundreds of magazine articles, hundreds and hundreds, not just on personality profiles, but I wrote about fly fishing and technology and whatnot, and women's issues. So I have background in magazines, and then I've done some for-hire books, but the kind of my own breakthrough was on the Mother Lagoon, fly fishing and the spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. And again, I wrote that about my own journey of learning to fly fish and likening it to a spiritual practice, but also realizing that fly fishing is kind of a mirror. My cast, I could tell when I was holding back. Well, it's a mirror of what's going on in life. Just so I looked at it, even when I was guiding, I could tell, I could watch somebody casting or walking through, because we guided, we fished in a very a beautiful estuary. We waded in like knee deep, beautiful, warm water. And if you move too fast, you missed opportunities. That's what I started saying. Or if you step backwards, it could be a little dangerous because there were stingrays behind us. So there was always something I watched, some message coming from nature through that way. So that's what that book's about. I'm actually revising it, doing a new forward or a prelude to it. And because what I discovered is that nature is so important in all of my work. It's always been important to me. And I see it dovetailing with my writing. So that book I'm revising, and we'll have that out hopefully by the end of the summer. Then I have written a novel, The Whispered Teachings of Grandmother Trout. another fly fishing based. It's a fly fishing based book. Protagonist is a 40-year-old magazine editor, overworked, totally disconnected from nature, even though she grew up in the mountains and, had that influence. And she goes off to the Laguna Madre, where else you have to use that platform, and reconnects with nature and herself, and has some interesting life discoveries. And so I'm not going to give away the end.
Good.
But there's a character in there, Mama Kate, who's the lodge owner, and kind of a very spiritual woman. And she's the one who kind of models for the protagonist. And so those are real. They're about cooked. They're about ready to be put out of the nest. And then the latest I'm working on is the Women, Money, and the Inner Male Connection. So that's coming along. Behind that, though, I have a long list of projects that are waiting for me to move on.
Kathy, I'm just going to pause the recording for a second. Hi, everybody. We're back. I just took a second to see if we could improve the video quality, because I think it's not quite what it should be. My apologies to those who are watching in real time, or to those who will watch this later. We're just going to accept it as it is and carry on. So you said something a second ago, Kathy. Did you say that you mentioned your 3 books, and that you mentioned that the first 2 are cooked? They are available. People can find them.
Well, I said they're almost cooked.
Sorry. Okay.
So I released the rights back to my On the Mother Lagoon that was published by a women's sports publishing company, and she went in a different direction. So it's been out for a while. So I took it back, and I'm going to be revising it. And then Whispered Teachings is a Grandmother Trout is almost done. We're going into production with that within the month. So it should be available probably by August.
Okay. And these will be on Amazon, I'm assuming? Okay. Great. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that people know how to get to you. And in the meantime, they can get to you through your site, which is kathysparrow.com.
That's right.
Okay. So I just, I want to come back to what you were talking about in your fly fishing, I think guide was the word that you used. The experiences that you had where nature would be giving you a message, I think was your phrase. Thing you would notice.
Yeah, I think that nature does speak to us. One of the things that I realize is that when we're in nature, we kind of let go of life, the trappings of life, maybe some of the unimportant things, the stresses, the haves tos, the schedules. And when we get out in nature, we just kind of, I know I did, and I would watch it with my clients when they would come to the lodge. From Austin, they'd be, involved in the, sales and marketing, and a lot of .com people. And they'd come, or the oil, and they'd be all wound up, right? And then it would take about a half day, and then they'd go, and they just melt, and they started relaxing. And then the conversations be more relaxed. Instead of complaining about what was going wrong in life, and they'd start, I'd be overhearing solutions to maybe issues at work, maybe with their families and whatnot. And I was part of some of those conversations, just hanging out on the boat or walking alongside of them and hanging out on the dock at night. So, it was not only what I noticed for myself, it was what I was noticing for other people. For me, though, it's if I haven't gotten out in nature, and sometimes I don't. I mean, I realized I had to go through this period probably in the last year where I wasn't getting out enough, as crazy as that sounds, because I live in San Diego, but I was getting busy and hadn't connected with nature. And I noticed it was bothering me. I was like a little more hepped up. And so just taking a little time to go reconnect and kind of hear myself. I can hear that inner wisdom better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I would not doubt that that's probably what led me to hear that yearning to write as a child, because I would spend a lot of time next to the creek, as we called it, near the stream back of my house, and I would be, walking along and watching the trout in the stream and just kind of being. So it's probably where I was able to get in touch with my inner calling, and then that's where I go for my reconnect and just listening.
So it's just as you're speaking, I'm hearing something that nature, bigger concept, but actually that it's very much water based. It sounds to me,
For me,
yeah. Well, and for me too. That's why I'm bringing it up. I think it's significant that you moved to San Diego. Of all the places that I've been to in the U.S., San Diego is the one that calls to me the most. I was raised in Montreal and moved to Vancouver for exactly that reason. I wanted to be close to the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
So, and right now I live across the street from a beach, so I get it. I am of your tribe. It has the same impact on me.
Yeah. There are times when the mountains call me. There are times when the desert calls me. And I think it's important to listen to those. They all give me something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the water is feminine, the emotion kind of softer, although tumultuous at times, depending on what water you're living at.
Yeah.
And then the mountains for me are a little more rugged. I kind of, that's more masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And desert, I don't know, the desert, I haven't quite, that does something for me too. I don't know, there's this openness, this is, yeah, I haven't discovered more, I haven't used my writing to discover what it is that the desert really gives to me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember, maybe this would kick something up in you. I remember never having been in a desert anywhere up until probably the last 5 or 10 years of my life. And I'm embarrassed to say my only frame of reference for desert was, Roadrunner cartoons. Just kind of very, very, very superficial, very, flat. And what really amazed me about every time I've been in the desert is that whatever grows there has a fierceness to it and an incredible beauty. I wasn't expecting to see greenery at all in any of the deserts that I traveled to, but it was very alive. And that was my sense, is that whatever lives in the desert has made a very strong decision to live in the desert. And so it's like this fierce shooting up of, color of wherever you see it. It's my big impression of every desert I've been in.
I just wrote that fierceness down. I think that's it. I think that's probably why I've needed to connect with the desert lately, or had the opportunity to, because I think right now I'm in this place where I have this need for some fierceness to get my projects done, to get myself over the mountain or up to the top of the mountain. Yeah, I feel like I'm on that last mile of this ascent, and to make some changes, to bring some big stuff out that I've been kind of dancing around. Yeah. So.
And, I must say that what I'm noticing about you is I really get how listening is a big part of who you are. Because there have been more spaces in our conversation than any of the conversations I've ever had with anyone, and I don't mean that I don't mean that in an uncomfortable silence way. I mean just taking a second to just think and reflect about what the next right word should be. So it's lovely to experience that even in this conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, it is.
So yeah, I would say some time in the desert is probably in your near future.
Oh, I've been there. I've been visiting the desert for the last few months.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And
so a little bit of water, a little bit.
Now, is this sorry, down south of San Diego? Is that where you've been going?
Palm Springs, so that's east.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a friend who lives in Chula Vista, so I was wondering if maybe you were going down that way.
That is very deserty. I actually teach in that way. It's not too far from here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this kind of feels like an unnecessary question, but I'll ask it anyway because maybe there'll be something that you want to add to it. I'm always thinking about the four things that I talk about in my talk, Small Steps, Big Life. So, the first one starting from where we are. So always interesting just to have a chat about where the particular focus, the particular passion began, and asking for help. So, the mentors that have helped us on the way. And then the next one is, what makes you persist on the path? What makes you continue doing what you do?
Oh, what makes me persist? Ultimately, and I had the answer right away. It's just ultimately what makes me persist is knowing that I have a mission. Mm-hmm. That spiritually, I accepted a mission to help others learn to live more authentically, creatively, transparently. It's what I do. It's what I've learned to do. I've always done it very gracefully. I've had to overcome some huge obstacles, huge challenges in my life. Mm-hmm. In relationships, very challenging, not always very pleasant. And I was able to realize that through my writing, I share my journey. And that ultimately, if I just touch one other person's life, then I'm doing what I need to do. I get a lot of writing, a lot of emails and notes from people who read my posts or read my blogs and say, or even my magazine articles and say, "Wow, that really helped." So really, ultimately, what keeps me going is knowing I have a responsibility. Mm. The other, I'm going to cry. There was a time I didn't always follow my path. Mm-hmm. I squelched it. I avoided it. I thought, I can't do this. It's too difficult. But those were probably the most painful periods in my life. And I now have 3 grandchildren, but when I think about them, it's like, I never want them to have to go through that. So if I'm out doing my thing, if I'm out, rocking the world, doing my mission, dancing on my edge, I know I'm setting an example for Jude, Max, and Abby to do the same so that they'll have the courage to do their own. Ugh. So that's it. Big heart, just knowing that somewhere somebody needs to hear what I have to say, and ultimately, selfishly for my grandkids. Yeah, or not ultimately, but also selfishly.
Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like you've answered this question too, but I'll ask it again and just see if anything else wants to get added. The last thing that I talk about is being grateful for the whole process, meaning, inevitably there are hardships, there are points where, we feel stuck or like we're being asked to take enormous steps sideways or even backwards. And in the long run, they turned out to be real gifts that move us forward in a much richer, deeper way than if we had just moved in a straight line. And you've mentioned some of them. You've mentioned, the guidance counselor. You've mentioned, your husbands. And just wondering if there's anything you'd want to add to any of that.
think that every time we're going through a difficult spot, I still do want to kind of wish them away. But I think that every experience, as you said, even though they feel sideways, I feel like I'm taking steps back. When you get a little perspective, that eagle point of view, that 30,000 foot view, you go, oh, that's what that was about. And so I am grateful for my experiences, the people that have signed up, joined me in those experiences, whatever, been part of those experiences. I have real gratitude for that. I work at it. It's a practice. Gratitude is a practice for me. I do a gratitude journal daily. I walk and say gratitudes. I use this word ultimate. I think I wrote that today. I get in these words, sticking words. I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to be a teacher. So with those experiences that I've had to go through, I'm able to shift them, share them. And maybe somebody will get something out of it that makes it a little easier for them. Even though we all have our own journey, we all have our own lessons to learn, but maybe I can make somebody else's a little easier.
Excellent. So, what's next?
Yeah. Oh, let's see. I wrote notes because I knew we'd get. Other than writing on my books, books and bring those out. I am actively looking to do some more speaking, get out and on the stage, reach more people that way. Expand my writing programs for multiple people. I do a lot of one-on-one right now, helping people write books. I love that. And, that one-to-many will help me reach more people.
Yeah.
And then the Thriving at Your Edge Adventures is my nature-based programs to incorporate hiking and fly fishing and whatever else I may be doing in whatever area, not only here in San Diego, looking at Alaska, or we might do a little gold panning or whatever else, having encounters with bears, who knows? And because I do believe nature is a teacher, and nature, also allows us to, when we're in nature, we are in present time. And when we're in present time, we can really see more clearly about our lives, whether we're writing about it. And I use writing as a tool. My academic study in writing is about the power of the narrative, the counter narrative, particularly. When we write our story, it's very healing. When we write our story and somebody else reads it, and I've said this before, our journeys become healing. So I'm using nature and writing to connect with more people and help others connect with themselves, really.
When you take the groups out into nature, smallish groups, I'm assuming, 5 to 10?
Yeah, if I'm alone, but if I have an assistant, I can do more. Yeah, okay. 18 is optimal, probably. Yeah, and I'd like to really reach out to corporations too, because what I saw in my lodge is that I had that's where a lot of our clientele were corporate people. And there is something about using that, getting people out of their boardrooms, out of their offices, and saying, okay. And I'm trained in, not only as a writer, but I have leadership training. I have I'm a master RIM facilitator, so I help and break through their limitations with that, which is also a tool I use for my writing clients. So I have a lot of tools that I can use to help people break through whatever's holding them back from really thriving at their edge. And really what I've done throughout my life is learn to dance at my edge. Instead of white knuckling my way through life, it's like, oh, what am I going to discover about myself through this next adventure?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big next. Yeah. It's exciting. I want to go out and play in nature a lot more.
And are you, besides Alaska, which is quite far away from where you are there a number of places within
I'll go any
San Diego? Okay, so you are kind of casting a wide net, just wherever.
Yeah. I want to take people places where I want to go. There's lots of places around San Diego we can play. I fly, fish, and surf. We can use that. I have mountains minutes from us. So that's definitely San Diego's my first base. But I have dreams of going around the world with this. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. Wow. Well, for those who would like to get in touch with Kathy, her website is very simple, kathysparrow.com. That's Kathy with a K, KathySparrow.com. Is there anything that we didn't say, Kathy? Is there anything we want to make sure that people know?
I think one of the things, while I'm a writer and I help people write books, really writing is a tool, and I use it a lot to assist people in releasing their inner magnificence is one of the things that I say. And so that's one of them. And I guess a piece of advice is just, anytime we're going through change, it's not bad. It's an opportunity to discover more about ourselves. And that's really what I like to model and what I hope to encourage others to do.
Beautiful. Well, again, as I was saying earlier, one of my favorite phrases, music being my passion, is, the space between the notes is just as important as the notes. In fact, probably more important, because it makes every one of the notes stand out more,
right.
More clearly defines each note. And that's what I've been struck with the most in our conversation, is the space that you create, even when you're speaking. I look forward to experiencing you on the page, and I have no doubt, actually, that as I read you on the page, I would have the same experience, that I would feel your space between your words.
Thank you.
Thing. You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to celebrate you, Kathy, and I hope everyone watching has enjoyed this experience. My name is Nathan Aswell. I'm based near Vancouver, Canada. The show is Small Steps, Big Life, and it's been my pleasure today to speak to Kathy Sparrow, who is a writer and just drawing anything and everything into her path and getting it on the page, whether it be through other people, through nature, but just, I loved what you were talking about, Kathy, about it being your responsibility, your calling being your responsibility, and really embracing that with love and commitment. I commend you for doing that, and thank you for all that you do. Don't go away. I'm just going to say goodbye officially to people, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Okay.
So thank you very much for watching, everyone. The replay of this will be online before the end of the day, and then it will be on YouTube, and I assume Kathy will put it on her website, and I will definitely have it on mine as well. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Peace and blessings.